You guys? Welcome to another episode of Ask Alex, where this is the show where I take your questions and answer them here on this show. But today's episode of Ask Alex, I have a treat for you guys. I have a special interview that I've been wanting to do for a great amount of time, and I've been following him. He's actually one of the reasons why I kind of started doing YouTube. His name is Chandler, one of the popular media personalities on YouTube. A lot of creative, cool videos that he's put out. How are you doing today, Sean?
I am doing great. Excited to talk movies, YouTube, whatever you want to talk about. I'm good to go.
Awesome. But before we get into the YouTube aspects of stuff, what inspired you to get on YouTube and start talking about movies and the pop culture stuff that you do currently?
Yeah, I mean, it's my own version of kind of what you just said, of seeing other people doing it kind of inspired me. But yeah, I mean, I've always kind of been a creative person that likes to put my ideas back there. So all the way back to the late 90s, I was on, I put up an members.aol.com website about Jackie Chan, where I reviewed martial arts movies and John Woo action films. And that was 20 years ago. So I've always kind of been that kind of person. And then in the early zeros, about 9 years ago, started to discover like John Campea, Chris Stuckman, Jeremy Johns, John Flickinger. And I had the thought, I can do that. I can do what they're doing. And so I put up some videos back in 2013. And as it turns out, it wasn't as easy as I thought. So I put a couple out, took 6 months off, put a couple more out, did that pattern for about 3 years. And then in July of 2016, I didn't have a job. I went to go see that new Ghostbusters movie that everybody was crapping on the internet. And then the other half was like, if you don't like this movie, it's because you're sexist. And everybody's, no, you guys made a crappy movie. And I was just like right there in the middle. I was like, I went to go see it and I was like, okay, I mean, it's not that good, but it's also not terrible either. I'm just kind of right here in the middle. What if I put a review of that out? So put that out, and it did all right. I had fun doing it. And a couple weeks after that, I put out a review of a ranking of the Star Trek movies when Star Trek Beyond came out. And it ended up getting like several thousand views. And I was like, wait, people actually care what I have to say. Maybe I should stick with this. Now, the next video I put out after that got like 10 reviews. 8 of them were my mom, and 1 of them was me. But I had like that one video that was just successful enough that I went, I should stick with this. And so that's kind of the origin of my channel. And if you're familiar with it, I do a lot of rankings now. And it all started with that Star Trek ranking that took off. And I went, these things work.
Yeah. If you guys follow Sean, super creative dude. I just check out his videos. Like he stated earlier, he does a lot of rankings. The last ranking I saw recently was your Fantastic Four ranking that you did a couple years back or a couple months back. And I recently told you off camera, the first time I saw one of your videos is the Spider-Man ranking from all the Spider-Man films up until, and you even included the Venom movie into that thing.
I debated that. I went back and forth. Like, he's not in it. It's not a Spider-Man movie. But there's always, if you don't put it in there, then people are like, Venom, I mean, obviously the two are associated. Why didn't you put it in here? And if you put it in there, people are like, dude, Spider-Man's not in this movie. I was like, okay. If people would rather have more of my opinion, so let's put a little bit more in there. And people, like, if I put it in there, you know why I put it in there. And if I don't put it in there, you know why I didn't put it in there. So it's like, the comment section loves to have really strong opinions on everything, but I went for it.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier about you looked at Chris Stuckman, John Campea. I watch a lot of John Campea and Chris Stuckman stuff. I was wondering, since you're now like, I guess, in that same space to a degree, have you ever thought about collaborating with one of those guys in that same movie space?
So I mean, like, I had John Flickinger on my podcast 2 weeks ago. So he's like, best friends with Chris Stuckman. Yeah. And so I've got my foot in the door just a little bit. Some of it's kind of weird because, from your perspective, I might be in that same space as them. To me, I'm still just this guy in the suburbs in Central Texas, and that's currently homeschooling my kids. This last hour before I jumped on here with you, I'm helping my kids with their math homework since we're all in lockdown and they can't go to school anymore.
Right.
So I still feel like the same guy that was the hobby creator from 4 years ago, even though now I've got a lot more subscribers and do this full time. And because of the nature of YouTube, it's very decentralized and and so it's not always, it's not, what Stuckman's in like Ohio, Campia's in LA, and I'm in Texas. So there's a side to it that makes it tricky to do normal networking. With all of that said, I met Chris Stuckman at a film festival last September. The date doesn't actually matter. Met him. He was in the theater, and I was like, "Hey man, can I sit next to you?" He's like, "Sure." So I talked to him for like 20 minutes. It was cool. I've been watching this guy's videos for 8 years, and he's like, and he turned and he's like, "Yeah, I know I've watched a few of your videos. I've seen you pop up from time to time." And I was like, "Whoa, Chris Stuckman's watched some of my videos. That's crazy that's happened." And so I've reached out to him a little bit. I mean, literally within the last 2 weeks, I've messaged him about trying to work with him a little bit. And so nothing's happening as of yet, but in the past he's been like, "Yeah, I mean, if the timing's right, I'm totally open to it." And then likewise, I was in LA in October last year, and just cold messaged John Campia like, "Hey, I'm from Texas. I'm in LA for the week. Would I be able to interview you?" And he actually told me yes, but it didn't work out. Just the timing of it, because it was like, I'm only in town for so long, and he's a busy guy, and LA takes forever to get anywhere. So I don't really know. But so I just cold messaged him, and he was totally open to it. And so the door's open for some of these things, but I'm slowly learning how to reach out and try and make some of that stuff happen. But it's weird because I don't, I perceive of myself as the same guy that I've always been, and there's the guys up here that I look up to. And then 2 weeks ago I have John Flickinger on my channel. It's like, oh, he's just a guy. Yeah, it's this. We're all just kind of people that talk movies on the internet.
Yeah, I had Robert Meyer Burnett on my show last year, and just talking to him, like you said, he's just a guy, He's just like how I'm talking to you now. We're just guys who talk about movies and pop culture, and we love that stuff. I genuinely wanted to ask you. I've watched your channel like progressively grow in terms of your creation, like how your videos are different. And can you explain to like the viewers, like what's it like to constantly evolve from each video that you make? Because your first video is definitely not different from the last video you put out.
Yeah. Do you mean in terms of like the production value, or in terms of the types of ideas?
Or either or, like ideas or production. But I noticed like with your production value, and I don't know what software you're running, but clearly you're running something very high tech where you're showing scenes of movies. Everything's like 1080p, if not 4K. So if you can go into that would be
my laptop's not strong enough to go 4K yet. It barely does 1080. So yeah. So basically, my thought, I heard somewhere along the way someone say, just try and make every video 1% better. And I kind of took that more like each month, what's like some little upgrade that I can do? Because when you start out doing anything, you're not going to be awesome. Excuse me. You're not going to be awesome at it. Yeah. And you have to figure out how to be good at it. So if you just put a ton of effort in, first video you ever do, you'll waste a lot of effort and probably on a lot of things that don't really matter, because early on, the most important thing is just learning to talk to the camera, be articulate, have interesting things to say. So when I started, I don't think I used hardly any video clips of anything for a long time. I did a lot of single take videos because I was just starting. It was just a hobby. And then along the way, I had a couple videos that were hit videos, and I did stupid stuff in them, just dumb mistakes. And so like the first video I ever did that cracked 100,000 views, it had like 3 mistakes in it. And then I went, okay, wait, I'm in a different league now. I'm not playing this isn't hobby anymore. This is actually a second source of income. It's a little bit of an income for me. So I need to treat it like a job. So what systems do I need to put in place to like try it? And how can I create templates so it's nice and easy? Like some of the stuff I do that people are like, wow, you have such slick editing. Is like, that video took me under an hour to edit because I developed this a template. I use Adobe Premiere. That's what I use. And it's just already in there. So I just have to drop movie posters into a template that I have, and they already do all the motion graphics. And then I film in a way that's designed for my template, so I know where I like do claps after each take, so it's easy to find the exact clip to put everywhere. And so it can be really quick for me able to do everything. But it was just a little bit of additions. And so at one point in time, I was like, oh, as I'm doing a ranking, I should put like the movie poster up in the number. So then I created a template that was a still image of the poster and the number. And then I went, okay, that's good, but it's stagnant. So let me put a transition on it. So I just had kind of like the stuff kind of moving over it to transition it, so it looked a little bit better. And then I went, I'm a movie channel. I should have like a film vibe to my stuff. So I started just putting these little film reels, and it was, I mean, that was 2 years worth of little upgrades every 3 months to create something that I was like, this looks really slick, and I can edit this really fast. And so I think that's, you know, a big part of it is just very slowly thinking, how can I make this just a little bit better? What's the next thing that I can add on top of this? And I didn't go 1080 until a year ago. I was full time doing this, and I was still shooting on a webcam. Actually, this webcam that I'm using just to live stream with you. And it was after that I went, okay, now that I'm full time, I need to upgrade. The next upgrade, get a real camera. So I got a real camera so I could actually start doing that 1080. My next upgrade would be get a laptop that can process 4K at a reasonable speed. So maybe I'll switch to 4K at some in the next year. There's actually that little upgrades. And then as for ideas, my thought has always been, I want to try and find what works right now and then keep experimenting to find what's next. So like I noticed the ranking guy, I grew my channel full-time, not with movie reviews. Some people, because I'm on Rotten Tomatoes and because I do review movies, they're like, oh, you're a movie review guy. I'm more of a movie YouTuber that entertains people talking about movies, and the thing that's my biggest hit content is rankings. But even over the last 6 months, I've been doing this, been the ranking guy for 3 years come now. Actually, right now, it was 3 years ago, 2017 April, when I had the decision to rank stuff weekly. Well, you can multiply that out. You rank stuff weekly for 3 years, sometimes multiple per week. I've done 200, 300 of these. So that's not a particularly fresh idea anymore. And I've been successful enough that a lot of people try and follow in my footsteps. And, you know, a lot of people have similar thumbnails, similar types of content. And so it's not as fresh as it was 3 years ago. Right. So now I'm trying to think, what's a new fun idea? What am I excited about? What interests me? But it's like something out there, but it's not what someone else is doing. How do I find that new angle that's just the right amount of different? Not so different that nobody cares, not so different that it can never be found, the perfect amount of different so it's interesting, but still accessible.
Yeah, that's actually really cool. You said something very key, like you have to find that right amount of difference. And I think with YouTube, you know, what's make people stand out to get the views that we get are just how different we are in terms of the entities and stuff that we put out. Especially with your content, like you said, you did a lot of ranking videos, and a lot of them, in my opinion, are really cool and really fun to watch. My question is, I wanted to ask you at the beginning of this, but I forgot. I wanted to ask, with this whole quarantine, how has this made you more creative, and how are you adapting to being at home full time? Well, I mean, I know you do this full time, but how are you being at home and not really having to go anywhere?
So, you know, obviously as a movie channel, I go into each year and I look at every release date and I just start mapping out, brainstorming, rankings, editorials, potential trailer reactions, and I map out, 200 video ideas in the first week of January. Really try and go in planning ahead. Because I do rankings, I have to watch all those movies. So I have to plan months in advance to be able to do all those rankings, because it's a lot of movie watching. To be able to really have a fresh take on them, have something new to say. Then about 5 weeks ago, I guess 2 days from now, Thursday, they announced that the entire slate of Paramount movies and Universal movies are all gone. And that was the moment in my mind where it clicked, and I went, oh, this whole thing's coming down. Like, we're not leaving our houses for a while. This is the real deal. Yeah. Like, this is that. I mean, I know the exact day, the exact moment where it clicked in my head. This is not blowing over. This is the real deal. And so I actually put out some videos, like comedic stuff, like with a piece of paper that said Sean Chandler's 2020 plan, and just tore it up, threw it up in the air. And then the caption on the video was, looks like I'm going to go apply at McDonald's, which, as it turns out, wouldn't be a good idea because McDonald's is closed down too. Right. So I actually took it as a positive for me. To actually what I just talked about I've been the ranking guy for 3 years. So I can feel the staleness coming in a little bit. I can feel that while I'm like really in my groove as to how to crank them out and have new things to say, they don't have the freshness to YouTube, to the movie audience that they did before. Mm-hmm. So I've been thinking I need to start figuring out what's next. And for me as a creative, I need to kind of go out there and try different things. Mm-hmm. But because of there's always that new release and the urgency of it, that always drove my schedule. So these new projects, these experiments, these ideas I was thinking about doing always got pushed to the back burner to go for the stuff that was the easy, safe bets of these rankings that were based off new releases. Yeah. I'd had it on my mind for a while, and even some people I talked to kind of mentor and coach me a little bit, I had voiced it to them in February, like, I'm feeling like I really need to dig deep to try and discover some new stuff, to expand what I'm doing, not abandon what got me here, but to figure out what's next and how do I supplement all of that. Mm-hmm. And so as soon as everything went down, I went, I think that this is actually going to be a little bit of a blessing for me, because it forces me to do what I've been saying I want to do.
Yeah.
And I think what some of my strengths are kind of coming up with ideas. Mm-hmm. And every, personality test, they always kind of say the same thing of like, I'm good at coming up with ideas creatively and brainstorming stuff. And I haven't really been using that to my full potential for the whole last year that I've been full time. Somewhat intentionally, I intentionally leaned into what I knew would work so I could make it sustainable, and it did. Mm-hmm. And so then now it was like, okay, let me come up with as many ideas as I can. So that's what I did. I basically, what are all these ideas I've been sitting on that I think could really work? And then I looked at the last year, and what are my 50 most successful videos from the last year based off views, based off numbers of subscribers added, based off of all these different metrics, and just made a big list of topics, movie franchises that were all, whenever I talk about this, it's a hit. Marvel, always a hit. And then Star Wars, always a hit. Mm-hmm. And then I made a list of types of videos. So I had new types of videos that sometimes I only did a couple of something, but they were always a big hit. And so I just started cross-referencing these three lists and just coming up with as many different ideas. Like, what if I took this idea that I did about X-Men movies and did it for Star Wars movies? And I just did all this stuff and came up with 133 ideas.
Oh, wow, that's good.
And on the one hand, it's like, wow, that's a ton of ideas. But like, as soon as you start going through it and you go, what are all the big franchises out there that are like really cool? And you can come up with a bunch of stuff. And none of these were movie reviews. This isn't even getting it. There's not one movie review on this list. And so there's always stuff to fall back on. But you go through it, there's all these lists. And I think all the different ways you can talk about these different franchises that people love and are passionate about, you start going, there's so many potential ideas in here. And it just, and the other thing that I've started to do heavily is I just go to, on YouTube, you can do these community posts. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm big enough now that if I put a post out there saying, hey guys, what top 10s would you like to see me do? I'll get 300 responses. What Marvel videos would you like to see me do? 300 responses. Granted, an enormous percentage of those are not great ideas. Right. Or there's a lot of people like, hey man, you should do your top 10 favorite movies. I've done that three times. Right. There's some of that. But get so many ideas in there. And then I tell them, when I say, and if you like someone else's video, just click like on it. And so then 300 ideas, but then it gets narrowed down by the number that they like down to about 20 ideas. And then I just pick out the ones, like the ones that they clicked like on, and the ones that I think I can make a killer video, or I read it and I go, that's a hit. I do a poll with those options, and then they pick it out. And this is what I've been doing the last 3 weeks. And like my numbers are actually way up over where they were. And, granted, people are locked at home. People are sitting there on YouTube. But it's also just asking people, what videos do you want? Okay, let's do it. Whichever ones that, obviously I'm filtering through which ones can I make a good video out of it, which ones am I excited about that subject, and then I run with it, and it's been cool. It's been very refreshing to like have creative, fun, new stuff that I'm doing that's different, and it, people are responding really well to it too.
That's actually really cool. It's actually kind of inspired me, because when you said that, like when I took notice that, all the stuff that I had planned, at least for YouTube and my social medias, it kind of clicked for me too. I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So I can't really do this now, because of the situation we're in. So what I did was I have this journal. I have it somewhere in my studio. I have this journal and I just write things down of what I'm going to do. And then after I do them, I cross them off. And my interview with you was something that I had planned. I was like, okay, now I got it. Cross off. And I guess that's the reality of being a YouTuber. You just have to plan in advance, because at this day in our age, a day in our lives, we really don't know what's going to happen. But I wanted to ask you a very interesting movie question to kind of wrap up our interview. Venom just got announced that it was delayed, and we got a new title. The title of this movie is Venom: Let There Be Carnage. Now, I kind of already know how you feel about Venom. I personally did not like it. I thought it was a CGI mess. I love Tom Hardy. I love the actors and the people that were involved. But personally, it seemed fake to me. It didn't seem real. How do you feel about this new development? And do you think that this could potentially be a great movie?
You know, it's a weird one for me, because it's like, there's things in it that I really liked that I thought were a lot of fun. The bromance between the two of them I thought was fun. But the script overall was like, what are we doing here? This thing is and especially the setup for like the first 45 minutes before Venom actually shows up is like, what were you thinking? And so it's weird, because as much as I have all these big criticisms, I still have this weird amount of hope for the project, because I did like the relationship between the two of them. So if they've got one movie behind them that has all that setup stuff that just got to drag the movie out, and they figure out what doesn't work, there's the potential that this one, they can just focus in on all the good aspects. But then the other side to it is they only had I guess their original plan was to only have a 2-year turnaround, which 2 years for a superhero movie, that's really quick. Yeah. And especially when you're talking about, there was a director swap and the script was already not ready. That's the problem here.
Right.
And so now they have an extra 9 months on the project. Mm-hmm. But it's not 9 months to work on the script. Like they already shot the thing. Yeah. And so I don't even know if like the extra time means it can be finished, but it doesn't mean it would resolve the thing that I'm nervous about. And then add to that final take on it would be, Andy Serkis is directing. Love Andy Serkis.
Yeah, love Andy.
Anytime he shows up in a movie and you get to see his face, he's always so much fun. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, he's the legend of motion capture. Mm-hmm. But he's not the legend of directing. So I just don't even know what to make of that. Like, I don't. There's not that movie that people are like, oh, yeah, Andy Serkis, he did this movie. And you go, oh, yeah, absolutely. Put him in charge of Venom. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those ones where I go, I just don't. It's interesting. Because it's Andy Serkis, I'm rooting for the movie to be awesome, because I like him and I want him to be successful at everything. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I'm not stupid, so I'm not going to be like, oh, yeah, this is going to be awesome. They rushed a script for a movie because it was a bigger hit than they were expecting, and they got a director that's never done anything like this. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it'll turn out great. So, and then I guess the other final one on it is that, Carnage is in it. We got a little bit of a goofy title. I guess they're embracing that they kind of understand their place in this world, maybe, but it's a weird title. And if you're gonna do, I guess the question everyone's saying is, you're doing Carnage PG-13. How does that even work? So,
I mean, that's a very I'm glad you said that, because yesterday on my show, I was talking to my panel. I said, listen. Because people kept saying that the trailer was coming out by the end of this month. And I was like, in this middle of the pandemic, if Sony did that, that would be stupid. That would be dumb. And I think that it would be wise if they move it. I'm so glad you said that if they did a Carnage, how do you do it PG-13? I said, how do you do a Venom movie without Spider-Man and not B-rated R? You have him biting people's heads off. And then when you watch him in the movie, it's like he bites them off and the bodies fall, but you don't really see that, the interaction. So I'm so glad you said that. I want people out there to think that it's not just me who thinks this, but I'm so glad I had you on the show, Sean. Where can we find you on social media?
Okay, yeah, I'm not great with social media naming. So on Twitter, it's Kirk Never Died. Kirk Never Died on Twitter. Very active. If you want to be in the conversations I'm posting on stuff, it's over there. And then I'm also really active on Instagram, where my name is Sean Talks About. And on there, I post a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And if you DM me, I respond to almost every DM. Try to be as accessible as possible since I can't respond to all the comments on my main channel anymore. And then if you go on YouTube and you look up Sean Chandler, you either find an NFL player or a guy that looks like me and talks about movies. It's the one that looks like me and talks about movies.
That is so good. I'm so glad to have you on the show, guys. And guys, go check out Sean's YouTube channel and all his social medias. Very active on Instagram and definitely active on YouTube. A lot of creative videos. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel where you get all updates of every time we're releasing a video here on our channel. You can support us on Patreon as well. And as always, you guys, you have a blessed day.